we're up to our next Q&A of the day. I want to take a moment to introduce the legendary Mr. Bob Kulick, as interviewed by our own Robert Conti. Give it up, folks. Make some noise. Hey there, Bob. How are you, man? Nice to see you. Have a seat over there on the white stool, please. And Mr. Conti, I'll be handing this all to you when you're ready.
All right.
Hi, everybody. How are we doing today?
All right.
Thank you so much for coming.
Hey guys, so this is a very, very special event we got going on right now, you know. Bob is obviously a member of the KISS family, a longtime member of the KISS family, but he's also very well accomplished in so many other areas, working with everybody from Alice Cooper to Motorhead to SpongeBob SquarePants. I mean, we're going to hear about it all today, huh? So let's hear it. Let's hear it for Bob.
Thank you so very much.
All right.
It means a lot.
Very, very cool. So we're going to begin with, obviously most of you probably already know this, that Bob had tried out for KISS in 1973, but we're going to go even a little bit before that. Bob's going to talk to us about how he originally got into the music business and some of the acts he worked with before that famous position.
Ah, very good question. I was very lucky in that I went from wanting to play guitar to learning how to play guitar, and then being in a situation where, because I lived in New York City, because I'm from here, this is my old haunt here, you know, it's so great coming back. I played top 40 gigs in clubs for years and years to get experience on how to play all kinds of music. So we played R&B songs, we played rock songs. So my chops, my ability to play different styles grew. So I auditioned for instance, LaBelle, Patti LaBelle, back in the day. And because of these top 40 gigs that I had done, because I was versed in the chords that are used in some of those songs, I got hired. And so this wound up boomeranging into something where I realized that I could actually do this. I could actually go to an audition, get a gig, and actually be on stage with major talent. When I played with LaBelle, we played in Boston, and Patti came up to me before the show and said, "Bob, you better be good tonight." And I said, "Patti, you know I'm always good." And she said, "Well, you better be good, because Chuck Berry and Bo Diddley are in the audience tonight." And we went out there and looked. There was Chuck Berry and Bo Diddley, and I thought to myself, how lucky are you? You get to stand here and play in front of people who, if it wasn't for them, you couldn't be here. So I've been totally blessed and lucky. And so that day that I saw the ad in the Village Voice for band looking for Led Zeppelin style lead guitar player, I went down there and auditioned.
Now, question, obviously the Village Voice at the time was a much thicker magazine or newspaper than it ultimately was by the time it ended.
They didn't have it online then.
No, so there were probably tons of ads, you know, looking for musicians. So what made you say, hey, you know what, I'm going to try this particular ad? What about that ad, if anything, appealed to you and said, you know what, out of these 50 or 60 ads this week, I'm going to pick this one and see where it takes me?
Well, I think it was twofold. I had just finished a tour with this English singer named Long John Baldry. We'd opened for Uriah Heep on this very long tour, which was a great experience for me because we played some pretty big arenas here in the U.S. But I just, you know, it had gotten to the point for me where, you know, I just kind of felt like I had the talent to be able to move forward and wanted to be in a rock band more than anything else. Saw the words Led Zeppelin, I was just like, this gig's for me.
Okay.
You know, so that was the key, you know. Or maybe it's a Jimmy Page style guitarist. The funny thing about, whenever I'm asked about the audition and about meeting Gene and Paul and all of that, I wish I knew what I know now. That I would have paid more attention. That I would have been like, come here, I love you. But it was just an audition, you know, to think that I would be here all these years later talking about something that then was just an event that happened, one of the events that happened in my life that turned into this synchronistic moment where here we are, and I'm going to get to play these songs again next week in Indy and back on the KISS cruise with my brother. It's totally gratifying and miraculous in its own synchronistic way. And you can all check those words out in the dictionary when you get home.
Now let's help the fans kind of visualize what New York City, Manhattan, 10 East 23rd Street was in 1973. Now, if from all the stories I've heard over the years, these auditions took place on a weekend, so I assumed it was a Saturday or a Sunday. Not expecting you to remember that, but when you got there, was it a line going up and down the stairs for guitarists willing to wait, or were you like, hey, I'm the only guy here, or were there a couple of people ahead of you?
They kind of they spaced it out.
Okay.
So that, you know, I was there, and they probably had 2 hours or so for each guy. You know, talk, play, talk, see what else there was. But having said that, about 2/3 of the way through my audition, somebody else walked in with a guitar case and sat down on the couch in the corner. It was a very dark room, and took his guitar out. And I remember Gene admonished him for, we're in the middle of an audition, what are you doing? The guy's like, well, I'm here to audition. And just like, just wait over there. It was Ace.
So, how, you know, it's so funny because I've heard so many versions of this story, but here we are. You are literally in the middle of your audition, and somebody just comes in, doesn't care about what you're doing, and says, hey, I'm going to plug in and play. Now,
well, it wasn't as much as I'm going to plug in and play as it was he was trying to get ready and just, oh, the audition for that room. So he just opened the door and went in.
So did you feel offended? Like, what's this? You know, what's this guy doing?
Again, had I known at the time, God, Ace is interfering in my audition, I would have. How dare you do that? There was no thought of it. As a matter of fact, it went by so quickly that it just gave me a moment to take a breath. Oh, they're dealing with something else. Okay, now what? Oh, you want to show me these photos of what you're going to look like? Oh my God, you're going to wear makeup, huh? They showed me some photos that they had, prototype makeup stuff, and you know, wanted to know what I thought. And I was just like, well, at the time, you know, David Bowie and other artists were employing costuming and makeup that was unique, nothing like Kiss, but unique. And I remember saying, this is great, but if we're Led Zeppelin, we really wouldn't need that, would we? Well, no, but this is kind of the plan for what we see for the band. You know, and I was just like, well, you know, I'm open. When what I really should have said was, oh my God, you guys came up with the greatest idea I ever saw. When do we start?
So, okay, so you did the audition, and it turns out Ace was ultimately picked. So, 2 questions. The first question is, what was your initial impression of Gene, Paul, and Peter? To actually go up there, shake their hands, and say, okay, I want to play for you. What was your initial impression of each member, and if you recall?
I really only got an impression from Gene and Paul. Peter was pretty quiet, as I recall. And Gene and Paul kind of ran the show. They were very intelligent, and I realized that we had the same upbringing, and I realized that they were into the same music that I was into. So there was an immediate bond that formed. Paul called me a few weeks later after the audition and just said, you know, the guy that played after you, he kind of fit in better with what we're doing. We love the way you play, you know, you may even be the better guitar player, but we feel he would fit in the band better, which I had to understand, which I did. But then we kept in touch and, you know, hey Paul, you guys are playing Coventry, I'd like to come down and check it out. And I think he was impressed with that I was still interested enough to see what was going on. Went to the show and was totally like, oh my God, I can't believe this. And it was still prototype, baby Kiss, you know, no fire and brimstone yet, outfits that were still like what's happening, and songs that were, but you could see what was going to happen, you know, and I became more friends with them than anything else. And then we started to work together. So I started writing songs with Gene, and then things started to change.
So the gig with Kiss didn't work out necessarily, but you kept in touch with the members and you became friends with them.
That's right.
Now, how was your career evolving at that point? Like, what was your next gig after, you know, the Kiss thing didn't work out? So what did you work on next? Did you tour?
I had a whole bunch of stuff that happened, including the band that I had with Doug Katsaris standing right over here, the keyboard player from Balance, my old band Balance, Long Island band. Pepe Castro, Doug Katsaris, first record. We had Andy Newmark on drums, Willie Weeks on bass. It was a really great time. And Paul Stanley was such a huge fan. And actually, I met Doug on Paul's solo record. He did background vocals. with Peppy, and the 2 keyboards on there as well. So actually wound up with a record deal managed by Lieber Krebs, big managers, with some people that are still around that are incredibly talented. Exactly. So yeah, I just kept going, you know, proceeding, and you know, stayed friends with them, and just watched what was happening, not knowing that all of a sudden now they're going to need my assistance.
So by 1977, Kiss is the #1 rock band in America. Tons of merchandise. Live 2 is about to be recorded, and then you get a phone call out of the blue.
Phone call out of the blue. Hi Bob, it's Paul. How's it going? Good. What are you doing tomorrow? No plans yet. So we're doing that record that I told you about. We got those studio tracks that we are working on. How's that going? It's going great. We need some lead guitar in there. What's the problem with Ace? He's indisposed. You check your dictionary when you go. Okay, so what do you want me to do? We'd like you to come in and play some solos, uncredited, as a friend. We'll take care of you financially. Is this something that you would do? You're my friends. Paul and Gene, you're my friends, of course. So I went to the studio the next day, Electric Lady Studios in Manhattan. Eddie Kramer, the legendary Eddie Kramer, the guy that produced and engineered Jimi Hendrix and, you know, some of the biggest of the big. You know, there he is, you know. We get set up. I'm like, wow, I'm actually going to get to play under these circumstances. We get a sound, and I'm like, this is going to be great. Can I take a break for a minute? I walk into the lounge, and there's Ace lying on the floor watching TV. Hey, Bob. Ace, how you doing? Now I scurry out of the room, and I'm like, Ace is in the other room. They're like, yeah, what about it? You know, so I was like, okay. So then we proceeded to start to, you know, they really only needed like solo here. So, okay, let's get started. So to make a long story short, you know, it all kind of fell into place and worked out really good. And I did those 3 songs, and everybody was really happy. And I then was able to say, well, what does Kiss sound like with me on guitar? There it is. And they could say, what do we sound like with Bob on guitar? There it is. So mission accomplished as far as I was concerned. And, you know, the idea of wanting to tell the universe, like, let's say we had the internet back in the day, I would have walked out of Electric Lady with that photo and send the world, everybody, look what I did. But that was not what it was. So, but they respected that I kept it secret, which I did. And they wound up announcing that, you know, actually it was Bob that played this stuff, and the rest is part of history.
That's right, that's right. Now, when you went into the studio, were the other tracks already cut? Like, had Peter already done his drums?
Everything else was done.
Everything was done. So you literally heard the song and said, punch a solo in there.
Yeah, just here's the solo sections. This is what we want to concentrate on.
Gotcha. Very cool. Very cool. Now, back in the day, you know, Kiss was not the first band or the first artist ever to hire session musicians to, you know, to act as you know, recording artists. The situation was like that. Was it the record company? Was it Casablanca that paid you, or was it, you know, Kiss themselves that paid you for that?
I think it was a Kiss company check.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So in other words,
they probably received the advance for whatever it was, and they distributed the money.
Now this was done on a good faith thing. Like, Bob, you're not going to tell anybody, or did they have you sign like an NDA, non-disclosure agreement?
It was my handshake at the time.
Yeah.
I don't think people did NDAs then or anything like that.
Okay.
I don't know, but they didn't. They knew that we were friends.
Yeah, that's awesome. So just gentleman's handshake. Just don't tell anybody you played on this. Okay. So what other session work did you do around that time, or you know, post Kiss Alive too? Like, what else?
One of the interesting things that happened was that Gene wound up going out with Diana Ross at the time. So it's like, wow, Gene and Diana Ross. This is very interesting. So I get a phone call. Hi, it's Gene. Hi, how's it going? Good. How you doing? What are you doing today? Today? This, that, and the other thing. He's like, why don't you come to the studio? I'm here with Diana Ross. We need a couple of solos. Pack up your guitars, come to the studio. I'm like, okay. So down at the power station we went, and you know, there's Diana Ross, and I'm like, oh my God, it's Diana Ross. And it's incredible. You know, and Gene's there, and I wound up playing the guitar solos on Why Do Fools Fall in Love and Mirror Mirror. And thanks to Gene, thanks to paying back that favor. They could have hired Steve Lukather or 9,000 other guitar players that Diana Ross either might have known or, you know, let's get Jeff back. They could have done that, but they didn't do that. Gene repaid the favor, knowing that I could get along with her and that it would work because they had seen me work in the studio with them. That was the big advantage, is that they knew that I was a pro and that I could deal with a circumstance where you walk into a room and there's a huge star there, some people melt into a puddle.
But your professionalism to say, look, this is a gig, I'm getting paid, I'm happy to contribute, and you know, session musicians.
A challenge. Yeah. It was the next challenge. All right, let's hear the song. Oh, I know what to play on this, and you just let your inner mind just do its thing.
Okay, so flash forward a few years, the Kiss Killers EP, which became the greatest hits with 4 inch results.
Right.
That's in production. How did that work out? How did your involvement with that turn out?
So Paul called again, and you know we were in the same position that we need some solos on a few of these songs. Come to LA. So they flew me and my oversized Floyd Rose guitar with a tremolo unit on it that I used on Partners in Crime, one of the songs that I played on that record. And flew to LA, and you know, it was the same circumstance. They were working on the Killers record, and they just started up on Creatures of the Night, so they're kind of working on both of those together. And you know, I could see that this time Ace was going to go, that there was going to be some changes made. And you know, they had changed in terms of, because of Van Halen coming out and because of Randy Rhoads, the lead guitar player slot became a little bit more than the meat and potato stuff that Ace had been doing, or even that I had contributed. I think they were looking for something a little bit more modern, more like Randy Rhoads, more like Eddie Van Halen. Hence my using the wang bar guitar on Partners in Crime. And it wasn't as fun an experience because I could tell they were under a lot of pressure and they knew they were going to have to make a change. And they were actually actively auditioning people at the time. So I was kind of around when Vinnie Vincent showed up. Who is this guy? Vinnie Corsano. Vinnie Vincent. I remember him from somewhere. And we said hello, and I remember Paul and Gene saying, we're thinking about taking him in the band, what do you think? I'm like, great. I was happy that they could find somebody that they could feel comfortable with. But I did mention to them at the time, I'm like, well, you know, if this doesn't work out, you should consider my brother, because he's 6'3", he's got really long hair, and he plays like me. So you might want to consider that. You know, okay, thanks, Bob. So a couple of years later, of course, the phone rings, and it's Paul again. You know, hey, how's it going? Yeah. Oh, what's happening with your guitar player now? Oh. You know, so I gave him Bruce's number, and Bruce calls me, and I happened to be in London at the time working with Meatloaf. And he's just like, Paul Stanley just called me. I'm like, yeah, I know. And I'm like, so what did he say? He's just like, you know, Mark St. John's got a problem, and they need somebody to fill in, and so I'm going to fill in. I'm like, you're going to get the gig now, you watch. He's just like, no, I'm just filling in. But I could see the handwriting was on the wall, that it was his fate to have that gig. So I always thought, you know, that what was wrong with me? Why didn't I get that gig? But then I realized that there was nothing wrong with me. It had nothing to do with me. That was not my fate. It was my brother's fate to be in the band, and I was to lead him there, which I did. And I think all of you should take this in the spirit that I'm saying it. In our lives, there are moments where there's synchronicity and fate. What we all look at and say it's a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. It's reality. It's what your mind has conjured up. It's what the universe has provided for us. I know this sounds like, God, he really is on drugs. But this is the truth. And now that I see this clearly, if somebody had said to me back then, well, you know what, decades down the road, you'll be on the cruise doing Kiss songs like the ones you're doing, I would have said you're absolutely out of your mind. But yet, that is what's happening, and is what happened. And here again today.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, listen, you're a very integral part of the Kiss family. Everybody here, I'm sure, agrees with that.
Thank you.
You know, how was it now, working with Eddie Kramer alive too? Obviously, you know, he's an idol and a mentor in his own rights, you know. But how was it working with Michael James Jackson on the Killer stuff? Because he was a new producer, not a new producer, but, you know, experienced enough first time working with heavy metal, if I'm correct. How was it working with this guy? You know, basically wound up producing Creatures and Lick It Up, but the first time he worked with Kiss was on the Killers tracks.
Exactly. Michael's a really great guy, and it was interesting because he was a totally different personality than Eddie Kramer. They used a lot of different producers, and depending on the time, when they needed somebody to really crack the whip, shall I say, they went to Bob Ezrin. Was Bob Ezrin, Detroit Rock City and all of that stuff. Bob Ezrin had songwriter chops to the point where he could make suggestions. Let's change that line to this. Eddie Kramer was more of an engineer. You know what, I'm not quite happy with the bass sound yet. Let me try the other bass for a moment, more that. Whereas Bob Ezrin was more of the songs or the parts. I'm hearing this riff, you know, he'd just sing them parts. Michael Jackson was sort of a guy in between. You know, he had ideas, he had sonic ideas, he had suggestions, but his personality was so mellow that he was the exact right guy, because they were already freaking out about what was happening. That they needed to have somebody calm, which he was. And that was the best thing about him, is that no matter what was happening, he was always calm.
Yeah, that's very cool. All right, so a few more years later, you wound up working with Paul again on the solo tour, correct?
Well, first solo record. First
solo. Yeah. Okay, then solo tour.
So,
okay.
You know, thinking of doing a solo record. We're all going to do some solo records. That was a lot of fun, because then I didn't have to pretend I was Ace or try to play like Ace or anything like that. I was able to just be Bob. So, you know.
This is the 1978 solo record.
Yes,
sorry.
exactly.
We're moving back and then we'll move forward. Yeah, okay.
These guys, they all know what we're talking about, right? We're not losing anybody, right? So, you know, that was just a great experience. He had great songs, and I felt really at peace and at home with what I was playing. And then, of course, a few years later, it's like, so how about we do a tour? A tour? Oh, we'll just do some local dates, New Jersey, Connecticut, you know, and then I was like, all right, so we'll do a handful of dates. That sounds like fun. Then 3 days later, the office calls. They're just like, come by the office and pick up the itinerary. And I'm looking, I'm like, it's like 30 shows or whatever. I'm like, what happened to our 5 gigs? It's just like, well, if we're gonna do this, we might as well do it up, you know. And at that time, I was suggesting to him that he get Chuck Bertie, who most recently has been playing with Billy Joel, to play drums. Paul had an idea of this guy that was playing in a band called Badlands at the time named Eric Singer. So we auditioned Eric first. And I remember after the audition, Paul came over to me and was like, so do you still want to check out Chuck? And I'm like, no, I think we should go with what you're feeling. This guy is really great, and I think he fits in the tour perfectly. And so then there was that special tour, and then Eric wound up in the band.
Yeah. Now, being on tour at that time, doing the solo tour with Paul, that kind of gave you a taste of, gee, this is what, you know, touring in a rock and roll band is like. And gee, if I actually made it to Kiss, I would have been doing this for years. But in hindsight, was the experience of the solo tour gave you a taste of enough of being on tour with a major band like that, or, you know, as a derivative of a major band?
What you mean is with them, because Meatloaf and some of the other acts I played with were major bands, but they didn't have the reaction, the audience reaction that Kiss had, and even on the Paul Stanley tour, you know, the fans showing up at the hotel, you know, check in, and there's 50 kids in the lobby, and, you know, outside, we're getting on the bus to go back to the hotel, and there's 100 people standing outside wanting autographs. You know, amazing fans, and, you know, I realized it at the time that even with Meatloaf, which was a huge, huge act, playing places like Europe where they worshipped him, it still didn't reach Kiss level, in my opinion. This is the most amazing fan base for a band, and they know it, and you guys should acknowledge it, you know.
So, in addition to Kiss, you've worked with obviously many other artists, and, you know, how many records would you say your work appears on today? If you were to actually count, would it be 100 records, 50 records? 200. 200, wow.
More than 200, probably.
Wow, that's impressive.
Either as a producer or as an artist, or as a session player.
So, what would be the top 3 or 5 recordings that you're most proud of?
Be careful, Bob.
Let's start with my solo record, which I'm fortunate enough that I was able to employ my friends, all of the guys that are on there, including my brother and Eric Singer and Brett Fitz and Todd Kearns and Doug Katsaris and all the other great people that are on there, Robin McCauley, and just a great bunch of people. Doug was able to write the new songs on this record with me, and I am most proud of the fact that after all these years, I finally was able to put out a solo record, even if it does have 23 other people on there. It's still my solo record, so that goes right to the top. Kiss Alive 2, Larger Than Life, All American Man. Every time I listen to that, I said to my girlfriend the other day, I was just like, damn, that kid was good. Crimson Idol, Wasp, the song The Idol. The pocket that solo was played in, it's more of like a Pink Floyd kind of, Dave Gilmour kind of vibe. One of my favorite things I ever did. The theme for Triple H, The Wrestler, the theme for Triple H that I did with Motorhead. That's me on guitar on that song, me and Phil Campbell. And I'm really proud of that. That was a huge victory to be able to have an involvement in the theme song that was as big as Triple H's song was. And the other one I would say that I would pick would be the SpongeBob song that I wrote and played on Sweet Victory from the episode Band Geeks, where SpongeBob is in the arena singing, "The winner takes all," you know, and it's like 2 minutes of him singing, you know. And I thought at the time, we were really lucky. The guy that sang the song, co-wrote the song with me, David Glenn Isley, who is also on my solo record, and an amazing singer. From Jafria and Dirty White Boy, great singer. We wrote this song. Remember, he found out that, true story of that was that they wrote the episode around the song. I thought they were just looking for a song to stuff in there, but it was actually that they heard the song and were like, we want to use the song in an episode, and wrote the episode around the song. And when I finally met some of the SpongeBob people, I was like, that's amazing. And that was very successful, obviously.
Very, very cool.
Every kid knows that song. Your mom, do you know who Bob is? No, who's Bob? You know, he did that SpongeBob song. You did that? Perfect.
That's great. So, we also have, you know, one thing that Bob, a lot of people may not know is that Bob is a Grammy Award winner as well. Can you tell us about that? How does it feel to be handed a Grammy Award? That is so freaking cool.
Well, you know, it's if it went with the nighttime awards and I was up there with Keith Urban or somebody, you know, it's here's Bob and Beyonce, they're going to introduce the next. It wasn't that, but producing Whiplash, the Metallica song, with Motorhead, that did the trick. Lemmy's vocal and that arrangement of that song just won. You know, all the other bands subsequently won later down the road in their careers, but that was a major victory for us, and I was really proud of the fact that working with people that are not that easy to work with, and please don't misunderstand, may Lemmy rest in peace, he was one of my best friends, and my lucky charm. The guy was not interested in money, only interested in music. A real, true artist beyond anything that you guys could probably ever see, that he lived for it. He was as much a fan as he was an artist. And he knew more about music than almost anybody that I know. You know, a student of it. And to be able to have something where I could say, you know what, you're gonna win a Grammy, because you deserve it. You know, they'll never win, they hate us, he said. And sure enough, they won. I remember like, how did you know? I'm like, it just seemed obvious, Lemmy, what can I tell you?
Wow, that's awesome. So today you have your album Skeletons in the Closet, right? Available?
I do.
Very cool.
I do.
Very CDs.
Thank you everybody for buying them.
Yeah, okay, awesome.
Thank you so much.
So
Doug, your check's in the mail.
So before I open it up to questions, one last question before we begin.
Sure.
Q&A. What is in the immediate future of Bob Kulick? What's happening?
Well, let's see. So next week we have our Indie Expo, the Indie Kiss Expo. And I'll be playing on Saturday with Eric Singer, and Ace Frehley, and Brent and Todd. We'll see who else shows up. And then Sunday, my brother and I will be doing the show that we did on the cruise. A little variation of that show. So that'll be really terrific. And I have another record that I'm going to be starting up production on in June So the calendar's starting to fill up. I have some other things, including the Kiss Cruise down the road, which would be really great to revisit and be able to play that again. You know, I'm very thankful that Paul and Gene deemed us worthy again, and having seen both of them since the cruise, it's been really great. You know, I really see that we've rekindled our friendship now, and I think that's really special, especially for me.
Wow, 45 years. You guys have known each other 45 years. It's going to be much longer. Another 45.
Hopefully so. Yeah, hopefully so.
All right, guys. So I'm going to open up for Q&A. So does anybody have a question for Bob? Come on, it's got to be questions. Yes, sir.
Your memories of the Blackthorn project?
Hang on.
Say it.
Some of your memories of the Blackthorn project and what your relationship with Gene versus Paul.
Oh, interesting question. Blackthorn thing, Graham Bonnet, one of the greatest singers that ever lived, that ever walked the planet. An amazing singer, Graham Bonnet. Unbelievable. Seen most recently on tour with Michael Schenker the past few weeks. And still sings his ass off. I was able to hang out with him in Las Vegas a few weeks ago when he was there. We had a great time, so great seeing him. It was just unfortunate. The Blackthorn record was great. Now Cherry Red has released the demos as a whole nother record. So we had demos for a second Blackthorn record that now people can buy. I actually have copies of that on sale. And they re-released the original Blackthorn record. Chuck Wright on bass and Frankie Banali on drums. Jimmy Waldo. It's a great record. I have nothing but great memories. It's just unfortunate timing's everything sometimes, as they say. It just didn't happen. It just didn't work. It wasn't meant to be. As far as the difference between Gene and Paul, I spent most of my time hanging out with Paul. We would go out to eat, and we would go places, go to concerts and stuff. Gene was more of a, not that we didn't do that ever, we did, but it was more of a, come over and write a song. And I'm so proud of the fact that 4 of those songs are on Gene's vault. So there they are, you know, something from so long ago, I could barely remember. I remember him saying to me, "You have copies of these songs?" I'm like, "I actually do, on cassette." You know, he made me take a picture of the cassette to send it to him. He sent me back the same picture with his handwriting on the cassette that he had. So it was hilarious. So I never wrote anything with Paul, but played on his record. Gene had asked me to play on his solo record, but it wouldn't have been right. And Paul discussed this with me and Gene, that if I'm playing on Paul and Gene's record, then it's sort of, what's the difference between those records then? So I had to, you know, realize and accept that. But they're both my friends. They're both great guys. They're different people. But, you know, those guys deserve all the respect in the world, because the true sign of greatness is longevity. The fact that they can still get up there and dish it out really says something for them. And their care for the fans and what they provide for us, I don't see any other bands doing anything like it. So kudos to them, and you know, I'm proud to be associated.
Awesome, awesome. Who else has questions? Come up, sir. You'll be next. Okay.
When Kiss first approached you to do the solos for Ace, what specific songs were they?
Well, there were no specifics ever mentioned on the phone because I had no reference to what they were talking about.
Well, what did they turn out to be?
Well, they turned out to be, in order of appearance, All American Man, Rockin' in the USA, and then Larger Than Life. Those were the 3 that I played that day. So those were the 3.
All right. You'll be right after this guy. Okay. You'll be next.
I don't have a question. I just want to tell you that you and Bruce both rocked the hell out of Kiss Cruise 7 last year. And we are so looking forward to Kiss Cruise 8.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was a special night, I have to say.
Now, Bob, I think we all know that Kiss is on its last breaths, and they're going to be coming to the end pretty soon. Now, with Vinny, Peter, Ace, everyone getting together and meeting with Gene and Paul and everyone, do you have any spoilers or anything coming that you know of for the farewell tour, with maybe everyone that's been a part of Kiss getting together, getting on stage for one song?
I don't know if it'll be one song, but they could certainly, and again, nothing has been said officially. It's just a bunch of rumors and thoughts that people would have. I think they may well gather the family together and do a DVD or a tour, or depending on what it is. you know, something when the time comes for a final hurrah for that, you know, to be able to have everybody, I think would be great. But yeah, you're welcome.
Hey Bob.
Hey there.
First off,
Hey Bob. Hey Bob.
love your haircut.
Love your haircut. Hey Bob.
First off, Kiss Killers, the 4 songs on there, some of my favorites. Do you feel vindicated that your name is out there now, having played those solos? It was like the 500-pound elephant in the room. Like, did you play or you didn't play? Do you feel vindicated that your name is out there, that we know that it was you and all the other songs that you played on?
Yes, but the vindication really came from actually being able to play those songs like I did on the cruise. So that if anybody had a doubt, well, that's the solo note for note. Sure is. It must have been him. I would say so. What can I say? And for those songs, I kind of try to make it so that they are literally note for note, the solos, as much as it can be, which it is pretty much. And I'm really proud of that, and proud that people responded in the way that they responded to it.
Bob, first of all, as a fellow guitar player, thanks so much for your great playing. Inspirational. Can you just touch upon really quickly exactly, you know, gear that you used for a live to play those solos, Les Paul, Strat, whatever, and the gear that you were using when you auditioned?
Back then I mainly played Gibson Les Paul, so I had an old Les Paul and a black custom Les Paul that I used. So probably those were the ones that I used on Kiss Alive 2 through, they had their own amps there. It was a bunch of whatever they were using at the time, whatever those Marshalls were. But again, with Eddie Kramer at the helm, you know, there was somebody who knew how to make the guitar sound like God. You know, running tape delays and, you know.
Did you bring any pedals?
No pedals. Kiss was never a pedal band. In fact, when I did Paul's tour in '89, I tried to use a couple of pedals. He would always come by and kick them off the stage. God damn it, Bob! I told you not to use those pedals. Sorry, can you set it up someplace else so he doesn't? Never worked.
We got time for 2 more questions, young lady.
Hi.
I'm actually Doug's daughter.
And she's going to be collecting those publishing and writer share royalties for me at the table later.
I just wanted to quickly say there was actually a movie that featured 4 characters that dressed up as Kiss characters. I don't know if you were aware of that. And my second question, if I'm allowed to have one, is what inspires you to be the musician that you are today?
Well, I didn't know about this movie, so I'm not exactly sure what you're referencing here.
What? It was like Nights and...
Was it ever released?
That was Role Models.
Role Models, yes.
Sean William Scott.
So I'll have to see this. I'm in the dark. So next year when we come back, you'll ask the same question. No, I saw it. Yeah, oh, unbelievable. Yeah. Now, what was the other question?
What inspires you?
Oh, the inspiring part. When I pick up a guitar and play, it feels like nothing else that I ever do. There's a connection between the physicality of what you're doing, your hand-eye coordination, and your mind, and your body language, and all that you feel. If you feel sad, if you feel happy, you don't have to say it to make it come out. It just comes out. And I think that's one of the great things. Because I could never sing, I was never good enough to sing. I could only speak through my guitar. So I had to be better at it, because that was my only way to communicate. So that's the way I communicate, is I let my guitar do my talking for me. Thank you for your great question.
All right, one last question. Yes, sir?
Hey Bob, how are you?
Good, how you
On
doing?
the last 2 sessions, what did you do to your own playing to adjust to sound like Ace, or to give it that, you know, what did you do different with your sound to make you sound like him?
Well, playing a Les Paul through a Marshall, it had its similarities to start off with, and Eddie Kramer was, you know, using the same effects that he would have used on Ace. But it was more that Gene and Paul kind of tried to guide me away from some of the other stuff that's in my vocabulary that, like I played on Paul's record, and kept it more meat and potatoes like Ace, even though there were licks on there that clearly weren't. That was the idea. And because nobody was analyzing it, like, wait a minute, go back, that one note, that doesn't sound like Ace. Nobody did. They just accepted it in the spirit in which it was. Well, a cool guitar solo and a cool song.
All right. Well, listen, let's give Bob a great round of applause. Thank you, Bob, so much for coming out. And, everybody, if you haven't met him in person already, please go to the other room where he sits down and he'll sign your albums and all that great stuff. Thank you so much.
Thanks for the great interview. Great question.
Absolutely.